Hi, my name is Jennifer LeBeau, and I'm a realtor here on Philadelphia's Main Line. This is the fourth in my Home Buying 101 video series, and this video is defining priorities. And it's about setting the parameters to look for a house. What are the criteria that you need to have so you can find your dream home? I have discovered that asking my clients why they're trying to buy a house as opposed to what they're looking for as a first question is helpful because it focuses on the things that are really important to them. So when I ask, why are you buying a house or why do you want to move? Sometimes they'll say things like, I got a new job and the commute will now be almost an hour. It could be, we just had another baby and we don't have enough bedrooms for our family. Sometimes it's something like, we really need an extra area to be in and the basement that we have in our home now is not finishable. So that's a good starting place for me to know what some of the really important things are. But normally I get answers that sound like, well, we'd really like a more neighborhoody area and I'd like a flat yard. We need a first floor family room, updated kitchens and baths, need a garage, gas cooking, and has to have central air. And there's nothing wrong with that. A wish list is really important. You got to have one. But I like to warn my clients that no matter what price range they're in, it's challenging to find a home that has everything you're looking for and nothing you're not. So the first step is to recognize that you need to both prioritize and compromise. So I ask my clients to make a list, and it's interesting if I'm working with a couple to see how closely those lists align. So the lists are supposed to be what you really are looking for, what you really need to have, what you have to have, what you can't live without, and also what you absolutely can't stand. If you categorically are not going to do a home with a first floor bedroom, or you absolutely are not going to renovate and you need an updated kitchen and baths, be honest about that. So this list is about being honest, yet open-minded. So once you've made your list, you'll go online, or your agent will, and start sending you listings that match all or as many of the criteria as possible. If you discover, like many people do, that it's hard finding houses that have all the things you want, go back to that list. Now reevaluate it with a little bit more of a critical eye. So let's say, for example, that you wrote down has to be within a 20-minute commute of work. Could you maybe pull that out to 30 minutes? Would that open a lot more possibilities? Or have to have an updated kitchen and baths. What if the kitchen's been updated, but the baths haven't? Maybe you could consider homes where they're not 50 years old, but maybe they're 25 years old. Maybe you could live with them a little bit. So that list is sort of a work in progress during the whole process of looking for a home. The next piece of advice I have is listen to your agent. A lot of times people will say to me, for example, oh, we want to see this house, and I'll look at it and I'll say, I thought that you really were trying to keep your commute down. And they'll say, well, yeah, it's only 7.2 miles from my office. And then I'll say, yeah, but those 7.2 miles in that area, that's going to be 35 to 40 minutes. With something like an extra finishable basement, sometimes the basement's not finished, but it's finishable. So if somebody put a criteria of a finished basement in, agents aren't always that clear on what finished means versus not finished. So maybe I find one that's semi-finished. So that's the kind of thing I recommend. Listen to your agent. In addition, your agent will be able to give you some warnings like, great, you found a house that sounds like it's very well priced, has most of what you're looking for, but your agent may say, I've noticed that values in that neighborhood have been steadily declining. So remember, your agent does this every day for a living, and sometimes they may have some suggestions or ideas that you haven't thought of. All right, now let's say you found a home that you've toured and you think this might be the one. I strongly recommend at that point going back to that list, which again has been updated probably a few times during the course of your search, and make sure that it meets most of the items on the list. Sometimes people get a little blinded by maybe one or two features of a property and they kind of forget about their list. For example, if it has terrific curb appeal or a wonderful yard or the most beautiful updated kitchen, Those things are important, but do they give you the bedroom space you need? Does it have a family room? Is the basement finishable? Does it have the garage you said you couldn't live without? So don't get too distracted by some of those things. Refer to that list. At the same time, please note your emotional response to the house. That visceral reaction of, I could see myself living here. This feels like home, is extremely important and valuable. So don't discount that. What you really need to do to be sure it's going to be a great fit for you is look at both the pieces. Look at that analytical list. Make sure it really meets most of the needs you set out to hit. And then you want to feel like you could see yourself living there. It feels like it could become home. So that is my advice on how to define your priorities and start to set the parameters for your home search. I hope it's been helpful. Please visit me at my website, jenniferlebeau.com. Thanks for listening.